Good morning and welcome to the ISSADA Insider, where we showcase our partners, be they in salons and spas, aesthetic clinics, dermatology or plastic surgery practices, TV, film and media, education and other connected industries. It'll be no secret to ISSADA fans that one of the highlights of the ISSADA calendar is the annual Brisbane Fashion Festival. For many years now, we've supported the festival with camera-ready mineral makeup and incredible makeup artists. Our role is to work magic behind the stage for the models before they saunter out onto the catwalk in front of fashion fans and clicking cameras. From our behind-the-scenes view, we know that Brisbane Fashion Festival is the result of months and months of planning, organisation and coordination for everyone involved. So for this episode of The Insider, we wanted to shine the spotlight on the driving force behind the show, the legendary Lindsay Bennett. As festival director, Lindsay is no stranger to staging major events. His experience has included 10 years as marketing manager for Cotton Australia and board director of the Cotton Store board. While in these roles, he created and implemented numerous fashion events, including the launch of the Cotton Store, a world-first agricultural concept store featuring high-quality cotton products, interactive computer games and educational facilities. Other career highlights include 25 years of annual cotton and wool fashion parades at the Royal Queensland Show, and openings of brands such as Tag Heuer, Top Man, Top Shop, Nespresso boutiques, Deary's restaurants and smokehouse. He's also worked with Alex Perry fundraising events in association with AIOU and many launch events for Mercedes-Benz Brisbane. His company, Lindsay Bennett Marketing, continues to provide specialist event marketing for many well-known brands, including Magic Millions, Hyatt Regency Century Cove, Gucci Store Brisbane, Sydney Royal Easter Show, Ronald McDonald House, and this list is this long, so I'll stop there. So without further ado, I would like to give a warm welcome to Lindsay Bennett. Lindsay, lovely to have you here today. I know it's a very busy day for you, so thank you for taking time out to join us. So with the festival just around the corner, or so it seems, tell us what's happening.
Look, this is a really wonderful interlude for us. Today is so important. Today we launched the program of events for this year's Brisbane Fashion Festival. So this is your chance for consumers to go online, have a look at the shows that we're doing before tickets go on sale at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. It's really exciting because throughout the 21-year history of Brisbane Fashion Festival, it took many years for consumers to understand that this was a consumer-driven campaign designed specific for them to be able to come and see the shows, then go forward and buy with confidence. But this year's program is a really refined and elevated lineup of some of the best local and national designers, and I am thrilled. You said that it's taken months of planning. I've got to tell you, it's 11 and a half months in total. We get a few weeks off and then we're back into it again. So this is a big machine with some really huge costs involved, but the returns are significant for those designers and retailers. And we think we generate in excess of $5 million annually as a direct result of showcasing local fashion on the runway. So this is why it's great to be able to work with our partners, such as yourselves, ISSADA Cosmeceuticals and Schwarzkopf, because ultimately it takes a team to be able to deliver an event of this caliber. And for us, and for me personally, it's about promoting Brisbane. Brisbane is a fashion destination and Brisbane is really coming of age. And we've seen that, in the 30 odd years since I've been here, we've seen a significant shift of people's dress standards and people are more willing and accepting of more local designers. So that's really great. But if I want to wave the banner and say that if I can just talk through the program and what we've got happening. We're starting with our fashion brunch and designer salon show that's taking place at the Lex restaurant at W Brisbane Hotel. And that's a really intimate affair where our styling director, Kimberly Garner, and her daughter, Lulu Garner, will be talking about the top 40 trends for the coming season. And I know that we've also have someone from ISSADA Cosmeceuticals there to talk about some of the makeup tips and trends that we'll be seeing across the runway throughout the week. So for me, it's a nice way to ease into the festival. Then we've got our W Brisbane Fashion Show on the Tuesday night, which is our major runway show. And that features designers such as Kidman Clothing, Queen's Plaza, Perry Carton, Kamar, Pamela Easton, Cable, Silk Laundry. I mean, it's a really strong lineup of national designers, very exciting. And that's at 7 o'clock. But what we're doing at 8:30 on Tuesday night, which has not been done in Queensland before, we're doing a standalone fashion show, and it's featuring Carla Zampatti. So I'm really thrilled to be able to take Carla Zampatti and see that collection on the runway here for Queenslanders, because I know that Queenslanders ultimately truly love Carla Zampatti, the brand. On a side note, when I walk through a department store, a women's department store, and you see a rack of Carla Zampatti, it just draws me to that rack because the fit, the design, and the silhouettes that come from those creations are really sensational. And it puts you in a league of their own for that brand. So very excited about that.
Yeah, I have to say, Carla Zampatti is one of my favourites, absolute. And it just draws you. I can't leave it alone. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful products.
Yeah, so Tuesday night's going to be a whirlwind. And it's funny, it's sort of like a tsunami. We sort of know that this beast is building up, and then it becomes opening night. We don't have very long when we say, okay, everyone's going into hair and makeup at 4 o'clock. They're doing a quick walk on the runway. 4:30 they go into hair and makeup, and then it's on. 5 o'clock guests are arriving. Other guests are going to VIP lounges. We're doing live TV crosses with our broadcast media, and then at 7 we've got a full audience, and that's it. It's all ships go. We don't really, as a group, get a chance to actually rehearse and refine. So we work on the seat of our pants, and I think that's probably one of the exciting things for me to be able to do that. But anyway, then on the Wednesday night, we've got our merging designers with the support of Gina Reinhardt and Hancock Prospecting, and there's some wonderful designers in amongst that. We've actually gone forward and handpicked some of those emerging designers to be able to show the depth and breadth of what's coming through in these designers moving forward. So out of all the shows, I think for me personally, to be able to support the Next Gen show is probably one of my favorite, because they test the boundaries, and I think that's really important in fashion to be able to do that. Then on Thursday night, we've got our local designers, and I think it's a really wonderful way to finish off, round out our group shows. And some of those designers include Jateo, Carol De Silva, Astil, Manzillo, Christian Williams, The Brand, Sonia Stradiata Couture, Sasha Drake, Rick Rack Road, and Millie Zhu. So it's a real blend of designers. So that's our major group shows. And then, of course, off the runway collaborations that we have throughout the week. And I think it's important to be able to create a curated experience of other activations that people can come along and support. And Monday night, we'll see a wonderful event with the Queensland Ballet, and it's taking you behind the scenes to look at how the tutu and what goes into looking after those costumes, and it's a dinner. Beautiful. And then, of course, on Monday night, we also have the new Hancock store opening and cocktail reception that's taking place there. And then on Wednesday, we've got a Luxe Luncheon that's going to take place at Hanworth House. Really exciting there, because one of the key drivers for this year's festival, and we don't generally go with a theme, but this is somewhat of a theme about legacy. And I think, I've been doing the festival for 21 years now. I'm getting old in the gills. And I think there's a number of other people within the industry that are looking to collaborate with family members for carrying the legacy forward. So we have a wonderful lineup of panel discussions hosted by Alison Kubler, and that is Margot McKinney and her nephew. And then, of course, we've got Samantha Ogilvie with her daughter, Phoebe. So it's great for them to be able to share what goes on in terms of a family business and two iconic business working from two different spectrums of fashion. I mean, Samantha Ogilvie, that's the luxury retail brands, and Margot McKinney, her jewelry is absolutely sensational. And yes, it's going to be a really great luncheon. And then, of course, on the Friday, to round out, we've got the domestic violence and walk in solidarity for domestic abuse. And it's important to be able to talk about that, because one of the early signs of coercive control is people being told, partners telling their partners, you can't wear that outfit or you can't put that makeup on. And I think to be able to give individuals the opportunity to understand that coercive control starts at a very early age and very early in a relationship, and it's something that needs to be monitored and something that needs to be dealt with at that point, instead of allowing it to go forward and to be something quite nasty as it progresses. But finishing off the Friday night, we've got a wonderful cabaret with Glenys Trail Nash, ex-fashion editor, very well-known national fashion editor and national commentator, happening at the Powerhouse Museum, called In These Shoes. And she talks about her 20-year history of what goes on in the fashion industry. So all in all, I think it's a truly wonderful program, and tickets are on sale on Monday through the Brisbane Fashion Festival website. And I'm always humbled, because ultimately within the first day we've generally sold out so many of the events. So it's wonderful how a city and a nation has got in and supported the fashion festival. We even get a lot of international guests coming across. Last year we had people from Japan, Germany and Italy attend. So it really is a great mix, and I think it's wonderful to be able to continue this opportunity to work with our local industry.
And I know when we last spoke, you were talking about the different venues and all the work that goes involved in sourcing the venues. Am I right, there's a change of venue this year for some of the...
No, when we last spoke, we were certainly looking at trying to do a mystery location, and unfortunately, due to building works, we weren't able to do that. But what we are doing, all the major group shows will be taking place again at City Hall in King George Square in a custom-built marquee. It's a wonderful place, wonderful location, and we're thrilled with what we're going to do. The staging will be a bit different this year. I'm not going to give anything away. There's some things we want to keep a secret until people walk into the room. But I mean, our seating capacity for each show sits at around 700, and it's great. I used to be able to sit front row and control things watching the show with my team, but now I actually sit in the production box and I actually call the show, so I'm in complete control. I'm like the puppeteer, pulling the strings of what's going on to make sure that everything sticks in time and does the right thing. But if you can't get a ticket, don't worry, you can watch the live streams, and these are presented by Hancock Prospecting through our website again, and you just log in on the night and watch it live. So we have thousands of people tuning in, which is great. I think last year we had over 4,000 across 28 countries watch the live stream. So yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity to really put Brisbane on the fashion map.
And for those who haven't been there, I kind of want to say, I sat in the marquee last year and looked around the room. Fashion came down, and it was just awesome. The room was electric, the atmosphere was incredible. There was some amazing fashions came out, and it really truly was an experience. It's beautiful, as it is every year, but last year had, maybe because it was the 20th anniversary, it just had that little bit more pizzazz, and maybe I understood what was going on more as well, because I've been to a few now. But yeah, that's excellent. So tickets go on sale on Monday, did you say?
Yes, Monday at 9 o'clock. Through
Excellent.
Ticketek, but log into the Brisbane Fashion Festival website, and there's booking buttons from there.
Great. And now let's delve into you, Lindsay. So you cleverly tried to steer that away from you, but no, it's good. So obviously it's been a huge, important journey for the whole industry and for Brisbane. But what made you believe in it? What gave you the idea? Where did it all start?
So when we moved up from Sydney, previous to that, when I was working for Cotton Australia, I had an association with Australian Fashion Week with Simon Lott for a number of years and supported that. We also, through Cotton Australia, sponsored the RAQ Australian Fashion Design Awards here in Brisbane when it was more Queensland based. So I knew that the Queensland fashion industry was really strong and had some tremendous designers. When the RAQ Awards moved to the Gold Coast, I saw an opportunity then to bring in a fashion festival, because it was very different to the RAQ. RAQ was rewarding designers and putting designers against each other. And I thought, whilst I valued that and I thought it was tremendous, I thought really that what we should not be putting designer against designer, we should be promoting the industry as a whole. And I had observed that Melbourne Fashion Festival and Sydney Fashion Festival, that they had started in the early 2000s, and I thought, great, this is something we could do here in Brisbane. So it was a very hard slog in the early days to get it off the ground, trying to not educate, but to inform the public that this was a consumer-driven event. But over the course of the years now, they completely understand what it's about. So yeah, that's how it all started back in those days. Very exciting. And I can't believe that 21 years on, I've got a little grayer, certainly got a few more wrinkles, although I am using your products, I have to say.
I hope so.
And yeah, it's really exciting to see where it is now, and I think it's got a tremendous way to go in the future.
And when you started out, did you ever imagine it would run for so long and become so big?
My partner and I had always talked about the importance of delivering this event for the city. We know that just as fashion evolves and changes and grows, reinvents itself, so too does the Brisbane Fashion Festival. When we first started, we had the support of Mercedes-Benz globally, and it was Mercedes-Benz Fashion Festival Brisbane. And I think Brisbane was one of the first ones that Mercedes-Benz had actually supported globally. And then and after COVID, they pulled back and we reverted back to our original name, Brisbane Fashion Festival. And I'm glad we had maintained our original name from the outset, because, you know, sponsors come and go, but fortunately with all our partners, we keep them for an awfully long while and make sure that we deliver outcomes back to them to make sure they get their return on their investment. So yeah, that was incredibly important for us. And to answer your question, had I thought 21 years for it to continue? No, I haven't.
You know, it's a huge achievement. It really is. Was there ever a moment you thought it might not work?
2006 was our first year. In 2000, it didn't make any money. In 2007, again, we struggled quite strongly to the point that we had to underwrite the festival, which meant we had to sell some assets. 2007, it started to get the momentum, and from there it started to build. So yes, there was a period of time when I thought, you know what, this is just too difficult, too challenging, and the financial returns for us as a business to carry it didn't make us think, you know, really, should we not do this? But knowing there was nothing else in the marketplace, knowing that there was really not another entity that had the ability to work across delivering an event, delivering the marketing, forward selling it with corporates, having the political connections, we just thought that we had to continue on. And today, you know, those connections are still there, and they're really strong. And so I'm glad that we did persevere. Absolutely.
Yeah, no going back now. As you said, you've got the political connections. There's always a lot of well-known people in that audience. How did you manage to bring them on board?
In the early days, it was trying to demonstrate to them that looking at the other markets, particularly Melbourne Fashion Festival, it had huge support from both a state perspective and a local government perspective. And the economic returns back to the state was considerable. I worked to try and demonstrate that as a local fashion industry, if we don't support them, they'll either firstly leave the state to continue their business, because back in 20 odd years ago, we didn't have social media like we have today. We didn't have the ability to link in with the national magazines because they were pretty focused on their own areas and on select designers. So the festival provided an overarching opportunity to really pull those elements together to raise the profile of local designers. And I think today that's even more important with social media, that we need to be supporting these local designers. Everyone's out there in social media, but with the influx of fast fashion and the impact that that's making on the fashion industry is significant. And unfortunately or fortunately, the odd thing is that Australian consumers spend more on fashion per capita than any other country in the world.
Wow.
Australian consumers buy on average 56 pieces of new fashion items per year. Average price point is very low, and they're buying fast fashion, wear it once, toss it out. It's not good for the environment, and it's not good for local designers. And I think that's one of the key things of Brisbane Fashion Festival. What we're trying to do is to encourage people to firstly buy with confidence, see it on the runway, go and have a look at it, try it on, and buy it. And if you buy just a few pieces each year, you are supporting a local industry that otherwise is going to dissolve away to nothing, and fast fashion will continue to take control. And I think also with the advent of AI, the impacts that's going to make to fashion globally is significant, and I'm actually concerned about that. So the more that we can encourage people to buy some quality local fashion and some signature pieces is what this is really all about.
And talking of AI, what do you think is the future for AI in fashion? How's that going to affect the industry?
I think a number of ways. First and foremost, retail staff, gone. I think also then individuality, gone. I also believe that with AI, the creative control that comes from a human is far greater than something currently that comes from a machine. No matter how much data goes into that, I think to create a unique piece of clothing is what it's all about. And that's not machine or technologically driven by AI. And they're the things that ultimately concern me. But and
I think,
it's interesting.
I think the idea of like retail staff gone, the concern across many industries is that staff will be gone. Who's going to have the money left to buy the products? Because if staff haven't got jobs and aren't earning money, they're not going to be able to buy the products. So the whole, it puts the whole economy into an area of question one way or another. I think in terms of what you said, the person effect, the actual having a human involved is really essential in things that are visual, things that are creative and different. And of course, all the AI is trained by humans. So there's a massive overlap. So it's very difficult in my mind to understand where one is going to start and one is going to finish. What advice do you give to, up-and-coming designers?
I think for emerging designers that it's about not wanting to get too big too fast ultimately. And I think it's about maybe rather than trying to look at doing full collections, they do a capsule collection, smaller pieces, smaller print runs. It's better for the environment, less pressure on the designer to actually come up with a collection. And it gives them an opportunity and a first-hand opportunity to test the market with consumers and just see what that buying pattern and opportunity is. So I think that's really some of the things that they should be thinking about. Yes, to have your product stocked in David Jones or a Maya or a major outlet is great, but it comes with a lot of challenges. And I think, walk before you can run. That old analogy is something very true for designers.
And I think the other thing about the capsule collection is for people like me, busy, to walk into a store, a boutique store, where I'm not seeing something that everybody's wearing because of the back of one of the big boys. And to be able to walk to an area and see a capsule collection that all fits together beautifully, and I can do my shop in one hit, not spend hours trudging around a million shops and having to make decisions that I haven't got time for, is just amazing. So my best shopping experience is when I go to that little boutique who's just got something different, and you've got the leisurely time to try on, they've got things that coordinate, things that match, and then to be able to walk out knowing that I've gone away with the capsule, with that interchangeable several items of clothing all in one hit is amazing to me. So I fully support that. I'd support that. Um, let's look at something fun. What is the most chaotic, bizarre, or unexpected thing you've come across backstage?
I have two.
That you can talk about.
Yeah, well, it comes down to the things that you can talk about. Two things come to mind. Firstly, many years ago, when I was the marketing manager for Cotton Australia, I was staging the cotton and wool parades at the Sydney Royal Easter Show in the Hordern Pavilion. And we were doing like 6 shows a day. Study like 10, 11, 1, 3, 5. It was a massive production. It was huge, but it was the opportunity to launch the cotton industry to consumers. One morning on the first weekend that I came in, we'd been robbed backstage. All the menswear had gone. I had an hour and a half before the show to get my partner to bring every piece of clothing that we had between us in the wardrobe in, and then had to try and style that up to make it look show worthy for the show until we could get that replaced. So yeah, that was an interesting opportunity. I have since learned you don't leave clothes backstage. You get things locked away. So yeah, it was a quick learning lesson there. The second thing happened here in Brisbane, strangely enough, in 2007, down at Howard Smith Wharves. Before it was redeveloped, it was the old sheds. We had a mystery parade, and it was a swimwear parade. So we took over one of the old buildings, which is now Felon's Brewery, I think, put a runway in that had a trough of water in it. So, and a waterfall at the back. So when the models are walking through down the runway, they're kicking the water onto all the guests sitting around watching the show. We gave all our guests clear ponchos to put on, which added to the experience. And I think trying to create those life experiences is really great. But there I am sitting front row, watching what's going on, noticing something's happening. Firstly, the water level in the runway's dropping. Next thing I know, I have a crew of people outside and volunteers bucketing water out of Brisbane River into this thing to try and keep the water going. It was really funny. You paddle like there's no tomorrow, but you try and present a seamless operation no matter what's going on. So yeah, there's two things that I could probably talk about.
That's fun. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, as you know, much of my career has been in aesthetic medicine, which in one sense is a world apart from fashion. But the thing that binds both industries together, or that they've got in common, is that they are both applauded and criticised in equal measure. And that's in their power to shape confidence, identity, self-expression, and even social status. How do you deal with that?
I think fashion is a very powerful tool, and I think wearing something that you feel confident in does empower you. And I think, it's the unwritten rule. You don't have to say who you are. It's as an individual, as you communicate your own identity without saying a word. And I think that's really strong. We've all stood in front of the wardrobe, pulled out a piece of clothing and thought, will I wear this or won't I wear this? You're not looking at the fabric or the makeup or the material. What you're assessing that decision on is how it's going to make you feel when you put it on. And I think that's the point of difference where fashion comes into its own, and it's powerful. I think it's probably one of the most powerful things. The same could be said with makeup as well. I mean, I know when I'm backstage in hair and makeup, watching the transformation of the models. And look, let's be honest, many of the models are quite plain, but the way that they are and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think they've got the right look, but to be able to then transform that hair, that makeup, is something really powerful. The girl's sitting there, but when they get up out of the chair, there's this sense of energy and confidence in them that gives them the ability to do what they need to do, and that is to sell fashion. And yeah, makeup plays a huge role in that.
Yeah, and I think we are all influenced by how we feel we look, and when we know we look good, we feel good, and that affects our psyche. And I think that's so important. You've seen many players in the industry over the years. What would you say separates those who last and those who don't?
again, another interesting question. I think when people come into the fashion industry, all guns blazing, they haven't really developed the connections or the relationships with other people in the industry. They think they know that what they're doing is the right thing to do. Those that succeed are those that are prepared to actually listen to other people's advice and direction and then go and interpret them themselves. There's some great designers that have been showcased in the Fashion Festival as within our Next Gen show. And unfortunately, within 2 years, they've gone because they've gone in a wrong direction in developing that collection. They've gone too big in developing too many clothes, and therefore they didn't sell. So they're unable to start on the next season's collection. And I think that's a challenge for young designers, because as a young designer, you not only are you having to create the designs, you have to do the marketing, you have to do the selling, then you've got to make sure that you're working on the next collection. So it's a cycle that's never ending, and I think it's a real challenge for emerging designers. So those that are prepared to think smaller, more refined, with broader appeal, have greater ability to actually develop their own sense of style and their own brand moving forward. For me, I think that's the key that they really should learn. With age comes wisdom. We've all heard it before, but it's very true. Very true.
It is true. So tell me, Lindsay, when you were 18 or in your teenage years, where did you see your life heading? Were you always interested in fashion? Did you always want to do marketing, or was it something different?
Not many people know this, but when I was 18 or just after 18, I decided to leave home and I joined the Navy. So I was a sailor for about 5 or 6 years. I was actually a musician and played trombone, euphonium and drums, and travelled around Australia with the protocol unit. So very different to where I am today. Back then, I thought music and a naval career was really all I ever wanted to do. But by the time I was 25, I decided, you know what, the boundaries of working in that kind of environment was too restricting, and I decided then that I really needed to do something else. So it wasn't until I was in my late 20s that fashion was something that I was finding quite interesting, and that was when I was working for Cotton Australia. A wonderful time in my life to be able to work with an industry that was going through some major changes and challenges as a whole. So yeah, very different.
And speaking of Cotton Australia, tell me about the concept store. So I'm obviously not Australian, I don't have the history, but you had games and education and fashion together. How did that work?
The cotton industry was struggling as a whole. People's perceptions of cotton growing and farming was that farmers use all the water, they drain the rivers of the water. Look, back then, people's perception of cotton farming was vastly different. They believed that they consumed too much water, they sprayed too much pesticide, and so they had a very negative impact. So I decided in my role then to let's try and counterbalance that debate. People love cotton, they love wearing cotton, they always have. It breathes, it's wonderful, it sits quite nicely. So let's use the end product to promote the industry. So I lobbied the industry over many months in the lead up to the 2000 Olympic Games to say, look, we have this opportunity to be able to showcase the industry to the world about how great our cotton is here in Australia. And I want to do that by setting up a retail store at Darling Harbour. It was a 2-level store that had fashion on the ground floor. Everything was produced from Australian cotton, whether it was cottonseed oil or soaps, through to fashion products. But also upstairs have an educational unit with a dedicated teacher that was taking primary and secondary school students through programs about what goes on to actually produce cotton, how to spin it, how that process works, what's the environmental impacts, what are the environmental standards that as an industry we're putting in place. Together with multimedia touchscreens around the ground floor that people that were coming in to buy could actually go and do these little games, and giving them a bit more information about how valuable cotton is as an end product and how important the industry is to to the Australian economy. It operated there for a period of 2 years, and it was wonderful. Lots of people came through. It was very exciting.
Fantastic, very innovative.
I would love to be able to do something for Queensland with the Olympic Games coming up here, and I think there is a tremendous opportunity that hasn't been tapped into yet. The challenge that we have right now, all our local designers are not in the shopping centres. Yes, we have some in Brisbane Arcade, but the vast majority of them are in the suburbs. So to be able to create a space that was promoting our creative sector, our arts, our Indigenous and our local designers, and anyone that's working with Australian products under one roof, gives us an opportunity to do something similar, as well as to really promote these locations as a tourist destination. And I would very much like to see if I can encourage the government to actually consider that in their planning moving forward.
That sounds exciting. Okay, well, final question, I guess, for today. Do you think confidence creates great style, or can great style actually create confidence? Which comes first?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, and I think that's been debated for a long time. I think fashion creates confidence ultimately. Yes, because we know when you put that on and you feel special, it's empowering you to move to something. I think others would question that and say, maybe not. But I think for me, absolutely, fashion creates confidence. Do you agree?
I think I do, because I know, so I'm quite outside of work. You'll find me in my shorts and t-shirts, no makeup, hair in a ponytail, and I'm anyone on the street. But when I go to work, I have the presentation, I have the makeup, and I always feel I can do 1,000 more things in a day than I can in my shorts and t-shirts. So I agree. I think fashion brings confidence.
Yeah, and I mean, the same thing is when you put your shoes on, the outfit's not complete until the shoes go on to create that total look. So yeah, fashion creates confidence. And there again, it's just wonderful to be able to, as an industry, to be able to help and encourage people to feel more confident in themselves, to be able to feel more empowered to go forward and deal with the day and the challenges that they face.
Absolutely. Well, Lindsay, it's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you today. Thank you again for making the time for us. Do you want to quickly give again the website for buying the tickets for Monday?
Yeah, absolutely.
On Monday?
BrisbaneFashionFestival.com. The phones have been ringing here today. People are asking questions, so it's been really crazy. So I know come Monday morning at 9 o'clock, there's hopefully going to be a huge response. So we're excited, thrilled, and really happy to be able to deliver our 21st anniversary celebration here for Queensland.
You heard it here first. Get in there and buy your tickets, and we'll see you at the Fashion Festival. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, and it's great. And thank you for your support with Brisbane Fashion Festival.
You're welcome. My girls love it, and they love doing the hustle and bustle of the show. They love the whole thing, and yes, it really is truly the highlight of our calendar. So looking forward to seeing this year's runway.
Wonderful.